everybody. Welcome to 2 Minutes and Beyond, the podcast where we review the Toy Story movies 2 minutes at a time. I'm Macy, and this is Bianca.
Hello.
Hello. In this episode, we're going to be talking about minutes 27 and 28 of Toy Story.
Exciting.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
In the last 15, 20 minutes since we recorded the last episode.
Yes, I'm full of coffee now, so I feel great.
I'm drinking tea out of my Al's Toy Barn mug.
I love that mug.
It seemed appropriate. All right, so these 2 minutes start off with Woody telling Buzz, of course, I'd love to see you as a creator, which is continuing his line from last week's episode. It cuts to Sid celebrating down below, and Bo says, the sooner we move, the better. Which, like, Sid's poor neighbors.
I feel bad for the new people that are going to move in. They don't realize how loud he's going to be, how destructive he is.
Exactly. They're coming into this neighborhood, and they're going to have to deal with the kid who's blowing up his toys all the time.
Oh gosh, and the parents don't do anything about it. They're just like, yeah, he likes to blow stuff up.
At 6 seconds, it fades to an exterior shot of Andy's house with a sold sign in front of it, which is a really pretty shot.
I do like that shot. It's like, I don't know, like for me, I really like the way they did the transition from the day to the evening and just seeing like the outside of the house. I don't know why I always like seeing like the scenery instead of just like rooms. I don't know. I really like that.
Yeah, because you don't see it very much in the movie. You mostly see the inside where the toys are.
And I think that's why I really like it, because it's like, oh, look, it's outside.
Yeah. I like that the realtor is called Virtual Realty.
Yeah. It's really cute. I was like, oh, did they do this online or?
That's another joke for the adults.
Yeah.
That the kids may or may not get.
The kids wouldn't get it because, unless kids, like, I guess nowadays they might know what a virtual reality is, but, you know.
Yeah. Maybe in the 90s, not as likely.
Probably not, because for sure I didn't get that.
Also, if you look up closely at Mom's van, you can see the A113 license plate.
Oh, yeah. I like that they put that for the license plate. I like trying to find that everywhere in every movie.
Which, of course, it's a reference to, was it a classroom at Cal Arts?
Yeah, it was one of their, I want to say, I think they said that was like the drawing 101 room or something, like where they started. That's why they chose A113 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's been referenced in, I mean, I assume anyone who's listening to a Toy Story podcast probably knows what A113 is, but it's been referenced in a lot of animation because a lot of people have gone to Cal Arts. Also, I tried to look inside the windows of the house in this scene, in this shot, and I couldn't really see anything.
Right. Like, I don't think they put too much detail because it was such a short shot. They're not going to put that much detail into something that was just going to go by quickly.
Yeah. The lighting in this whole scene, too, because it's like, it takes place at sunset, and the lighting in this whole scene is just like, it's like chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
I do really like, for it being their first movie, I feel like this scene, even though it's a few seconds long, it's really well done.
And I feel like It's kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's like a metaphor maybe
Mhm.
for what's happening in the scene because it's like darker and Woody is basically being a villain in the scene.
I know. There's like premeditated murder hints going on. Woody is just premeditating the demise of Buzz.
I mean, I guess he's just trying to get him stuck behind the desk, but that's still not great.
Yeah. It's still a malicious act towards Buzz.
Yeah. Whenever I see this scene, now I think of we used to have the Toy Story Viewmaster set
Mhm.
with the little like not binoculars, but the little like viewing thing
Right, yeah.
you would look through and you could put in like the different like a circle that had all these different slides on it.
Right.
And I remember just because I liked the look of this scene so much and the lighting and everything, I would just like stare. There was one picture that was from this scene, and I would just like stare at it because it was so pretty.
I can just imagine you just lying on your bed as a kid with that scene, just with the Viewmaster on your face.
That's probably what I was doing, either on my bed or in the car or something.
Mhm.
It's like
Oh
on
my
long
god,
trips, just
that's great.
staring at that
That
one
one
shot.
scene, 2 hours later, you're like, "Man, that's a good picture."
At 16 seconds inside the house, Mom opens the door to Andy's bedroom where he's playing with Woody and Buzz. Mom says, "Oh, all this packing makes me hungry. What do you say to dinner at Pizza Planet?" Andy yells, "Pizza Planet? Oh, cool." Throws Buzz on top of Woody and runs out of the room. As soon as the door is closed, Woody pushes Buzz off of him and sulks while listening to Mom tell Andy that he can only bring one toy. Woody says, "One toy?" and looks over at Buzz, who is looking through a box on Andy's desk. Woody picks up a magic 8-ball that happens to be sitting next to him. He asks if Andy will pick him, shakes the ball, and gets mad when the answer is, "Don't count on it." He yells, "Don't count on it," and throws the ball. So I noticed that Mom's arms, when she comes in to ask Andy about going to Pizza Planet, her arms look like Barbie arms. They look like pieces of plastic that bend in the middle.
Oh gosh. Mom's model is kind of not the best model. Because if you see her
She's a strange shape.
yeah, exactly, just standing in the doorway, she looks kinda weird.
Mhm.
And as a kid, I never noticed it. I was just like, "Oh, that's Andy's mom." But now when I look at it, I'm like, she's kinda poorly drawn or poorly modeled because 'cause they're models.
I
But
mean, I can cut them some slack since it's, human computer animation in 1995.
true, I'm not gonna bash it too much, but at the same time, you would think, like, at least just use a larger model of Andy, like the height and the proportions, but then just, you know, add stuff to make it look like the mom. I don't know.
Hmm. I don't know how 3D animation works, so I don't know if
I
that's
don't
something
either.
we could
That's
do or not.
probably not what you do.
I feel like we're always bringing up animation like cheats and errors.
And we're not experts at all. We're like, this is what you should have done. And I have 0 degrees in art.
Yeah. And I mean I don't want the podcast to just be like always pointing out, "Oh, look, Buzz's arm is cutting into him."
I know.
uh,
We're like, and look at this flaw and look at that flaw. And also send us an email.
but there was one that I thought was kind of funny where when Andy throws Buzz on top of Woody, Buzz
Uh-huh.
is definitely cutting through Woody. There's like if you look at it really closely, it's pretty obvious.
Oh gosh, I'm
It's
gonna
like
have to go
his
back and look at that.
jetpack is in Woody's body.
Oh my
Woody might be
gosh.
cutting into the desk as well.
I never paid attention to that. I need to pay attention to that.
I've become extra sensitive to that
Paying
kind of
attention to
thing.
everything.
Yeah. So when Buzz like goes to look at the box that has Andy's name on it, it has like all the pens and stuff, whatever it is in there.
Mhm.
He goes, and he says something. I can't make out exactly what he's saying, but it kind of sounded like he's saying, "Look at this stuff," but I couldn't really hear it well enough to tell.
Right,
And then
yeah, no.
a little later when Woody is making his plan, like Buzz is like coming to himself,
Yeah.
which I thought was funny.
I like that. I never was able to figure out what he was saying either, but you do hear him say something. And even with my headphones in, I raised the volume to see if I could hear what he said, but I can't.
I wonder what he was doing, like looking through all those pencils. Like what was he looking for in there?
Right, exactly. I was thinking maybe he's still trying to fix his ship, but I don't know if there would be anything in
Probably.
there that was like useful.
I don't know. He just wanted to go write a letter to somebody.
Maybe he's probably
Maybe
just being
he's given up
nosy.
on all other forms of communication to Star Command, and he's like, I'm just gonna send a letter across space and see if it gets to him.
Because toy logic. I would actually like to see him try to mail a letter.
Ham and Potato Head are playing some kind of card game with the Buzz Lightyear cards. Or like,
Yes,
how
I
did
like
they?
that they're always playing games together.
Yeah, I like the Buzz Lightyear cards too. Those are fun.
Those are really cute. I do like them.
But what I was wondering is like, Andy and Mom like just left the room. How did they get their game set up and going so fast? Unless it was just like they had started it before Andy came into his room and
Mhm.
they just like picked up where they left off, but then like the cards would have been left out and Andy would have noticed.
This is
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah, like how would they have made either that or they're not actually playing a game and they just have the cards to make it look like they're playing a game because they want to look cool.
I don't know.
And then also, if Andy runs back into the room, he's going to see them lying there. They're not going to have time to put the cards away and
Yeah.
make it look like they're not. This is very concerning. Like, if I were to walk into my room and if I were to see my toys lying on the floor with a pile of cards that I did not put there, I would have just moved without those toys. I would have just left them there in the house.
Then they would follow you
This is
to the
true.
next house. You'd have to burn them.
I
I hate to
would.
say
And
it.
that would be something I would not want to do. I would just give him to Sid. I'm like, hey, you like blowing stuff up.
There you go. At 50 seconds, the magic 8 ball rolls into the gap between Andy's desk and the wall, and that gives Woody an idea. He looks at Buzz and then at RC, who's sleeping at the top of a moving box. Woody puts his fingers together like he's plotting something. He looks evil.
Very villainous.
Which I can't remember. I know we talked about the Toy Story cruise ship musical at some point, but I think I edited it out.
Okay.
But for those who don't know, there was a Toy Story musical on a Disney cruise ship, and in this scene, in that version of the story, Woody basically has a villain song called One Toy. I call it Woody's villain song.
I mean, it's very fitting to call it that because he is acting rather villainous right now. He's acting very sinister. So, makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the better songs, I would say, from that musical.
I need to sit through that whole musical because I saw the beginning of it and I just thought, "Oh no, this is ridiculous." And then I just went all the way, like, almost to the end, and I watched a little bit of that, and then I was like, "Okay, no, I can't do this." But
Maybe we
I
can watch it together when we're at Disney World
ooh, we should
in
do
December.
that, and we can do, like, a critique on it while we're watching it.
We should do an episode about it.
We should, that sounds good.
Yeah, uh, let's write that down.
Please do, because I'm gonna forget instantly.
I think we should do an episode about that. That would be fun.
It would be a lot of fun.
At 109, Woody suddenly starts flailing around and yelling, "Buzz, Buzz, Buzz Lightyear, thank goodness, we've got trouble." Buzz looks around and says, "Trouble? Where?" Woody points behind the desk and says, "Down there, just down there, a helpless toy is trapped, Buzz." Buzz determinedly says, "Then there's no time to lose," and goes over to where Woody pointed. Meanwhile, Woody sneaks over to the moving box and grabs RC's remote control. Woody moves RC's wheels and RC wakes up. Buzz yells, "I don't see anything," and Woody tells him to keep looking while making RC accelerate toward Buzz. I like that Buzz just goes along with what Woody says is happening without questioning it. It's like, "Oh, there's a toy down there. Okay,
I
I'll
think
go over there and check."
I know, and I think, like, he would have seen the magic 8 ball, but maybe Buzz doesn't realize that that's an actual living toy?
Is the Magic 8 Ball alive?
I don't know, I always assumed it would because it told Woody, "Don't count on it," so it probably knows what's going on, so when Woody asked the 8 ball if Andy was gonna pick him, it was being, you know, truthful, honest. They're like, "Don't count on it," because Buzz Lightyear's the new toy, so
If the Magic 8 Ball is alive, then Woody's being way too violent with it.
I know, he shook it, and
He
then
just
he threw
grabs it
it
out of nowhere.
and just let it fall. I'm like, "How dare you, Woody?" I mean, that is a living creature that Andy has, and you're just throwing it as if it's nothing.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a Magic 8 Ball like that, but I had similar things that, like, you would ask a question and it would give you your fortune or whatever.
I think I had 1, maybe 1 or 2 different, Magic 8 balls, and one of them broke. So the water leaked
Oh.
out. It had some water in it, but it was very sad, so, like, it would shake all weird, and then the little triangle that's in there would just stick to the window, so it stayed, I think, on no. It was very sad. I was like, "This poor little 8 ball."
It's a very negative 8 ball.
Yes, it's
Every
stuck on
question you
no.
ask, it's just no. Woody's, like, acting in this is so overdramatic.
Woody is overdramatic.
He's, like, got his hand on his forehead. He's like, Buzz Lightyear, we need your help."
He did overdo it. Like, he went above and beyond with his acting, and I wanna say he did it just so it could be more believable for Buzz, but at the same time, I'm like, he probably would've believed you anyways if you just would've went up to him normally and said, "Hey, there's a toy down there."
He probably I'm sure, like, the toys down on the floor too, like, saw Woody up there acting overdramatic, and we're like, "What's going on up there?" Like, he would've drawn less attention to himself
Exactly.
if he
If
were
he
just
hadn't
acting
been
like a normal
screaming,
person.
he probably would've been like, he would've gotten away with what he did. Except because he decided to be loud, everybody decided to stare and see that he was being overdramatic.
Yeah. Also, how So if Woody just wanted, Buzz to get stuck behind the desk so that he could go to Pizza Planet, how was he going to explain that? Or was he probably wasn't planning how he was going to explain what happened.
Exactly.
Because
And the thing
RC
of it
would just tell
is,
him.
what I
RC
don't
would just
understand,
tell everybody what happened.
what I don't understand is when Andy goes into his room and he sees that Buzz and Woody aren't there, or when he sees Buzz isn't there because Woody is there, why doesn't he question that?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of times where I set something down and then like completely forget. I completely forget where I put it and I can't find it again. And I mean, I don't think much of it in the moment. So that was probably what Andy was thinking.
Maybe. I'm the type of person that if I set it somewhere, I try to remember where it is so that when I come back, I know where something is. And if I see it at a place, I start to freak out because I am the person that when I was a kid, I was a little too obsessed with Toy Story and I really wanted my toys to be alive. And now that I'm an adult and I've seen horror movies also, I'm like, I don't know if I want my toys to be alive.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's that unreasonable that he just forgot where well, not that he forgot where he put them down, but just like
I wasn't paying
he sets them
attention.
down and then he can't find them.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess that's okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just that one paranoid person that
I mean,
thinks
he's
too
like
much.
7. He's
Yeah.
like 7, so he's not
He's not
thinking about
thinking
it that
about,
much.
yeah, no. It's just me.
At 1:32, Buzz looks up just in time to see RC coming toward him and jumps out of the way. RC hits the edge of the bulletin board instead, causing it to fall over and all of the tacks to come out. Woody starts to realize what he's just caused as the bulletin board knocks the globe out of the thing. I don't know what the thing that holds up a globe is called, but the globe gets knocked out of it, whatever it's called.
I guess it's Axis, right? That would be an Axis.
Oh, that's probably it. It comes out of its axis. The globe rolls toward Buzz, and Woody watches open mouthed as Buzz trips on some pencils and falls. Buzz rolls over onto the windowsill, and the globe hits Andy's red lamp, which swings around, almost hits Woody, and knocks Buzz out of the window just as he's standing up.
What an
There's a
ordeal
lot
for
happening
Buzz.
in those few
I
seconds.
know. I'm like, what an ordeal for Buzz. Like, he just, started living with these guys and he thinks they're cool. And then there's that one jerk that nobody likes that he's just trying to get him.
Andy's desk with all of those tacks falling down, Andy's desk should be full of holes now. I
Exactly.
realized.
And then you think about it when I'm jumping ahead. When Andy comes in to look for Buzz, none of that stuff is on his desk, just Woody's on his desk.
Oh. So the globe thing chasing after Buzz is definitely, and probably the tacks falling out as well, is a reference to Indiana Jones.
Mhm.
Which Indiana Jones movie is it where the rock, the boulder chases him? Because I'm not very familiar with Indiana Jones.
I'm not too familiar with the movies. I've seen the movies, but I haven't watched them like multiple times to know. I want to say I don't think it
I've only seen the first
I
one.
don't think it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. It may be um hmm, I don't know. I'm sorry people who are Indiana Jones fans. We just we don't know. If you do know,
Me
please
too,
let us
because
know.
I've only seen the first one, and I'm not even sure I've seen the whole thing. And then I've seen like bits and pieces of the second and the third.
Mhm.
and that's about it.
Oh gosh, I know. We're terrible. Terrible people.
Oh, this whole sequence just has, speaking of animation cheats and stuff, this whole sequence has Buzz moving in ways that he should not be able to.
I know.
Like,
He's
his
running like
arm
an
twists
athlete.
around at one point. There was one time I accidentally paused it, and the shot, like, the frame that I paused it on, Buzz was, like, his body was, like, twisted around, and he was looking back at the globe, and it looked very
Oh
strange.
gosh. I want to say Buzz is the most rigid and stiff character for being an articulated character. He's very
Mhm.
stiff, but they try to make him look fluid because he's a quote unquote action figure. And action figures are supposed to be relatively, you know, movable and, you can pose them and stuff.
Mhm.
He's more like, not like, I can't think of the name, but there's one where it's just kind of like semi articulated, and that's kind of like what Buzz is because he's not too flexible, but they
Yeah.
try to make him flexible, which makes sense for the movie because he's supposed to be, doing all these action moves and stuff. And it just turns out that the model that they made for him is not equipped for all of that moving.
And it's why part of why no Buzz Lightyear toy will ever be completely movie accurate, because you can't
For
move
sure. I mean,
in ways that
even,
movie Buzz can.
yeah, the movie model itself cannot move that way. That's why his body
Yeah.
clips into things, his arm clips into himself. It's, if you were to look at it, like you said, from different angles, you would see like this should not be able to be the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it works just fine for the movie.
Yeah, because they know how to angle it and they know how to keep it looking like it's okay.
Yeah. They just didn't expect that in, like, 25 years, 2 grown adult women would be looking at watching the movie 2 minutes at a time and analyzing it to death.
And I really don't think they would have thought about that because that's fairly recent within the last, what, 10 years that's been happening? 5 to 10 years where people analyze stuff.
Oh,
As far as like
on the internet, for
on the
sure,
internet,
yeah.
yeah, like for sure everybody's been analyzing stuff for decades, but as far as doing like a 2-minute breakdown of each thing, I feel like that's a little more recent than, just having a documentary on something.
Yeah, for sure. The sound effect that the lamp makes when it swings around, I could swear that that's from one of the Luxo
I
shorts,
think it is. It does sound
but
like
I
it.
don't know which one.
It's a very lamp sound.
Yeah, it's a very Luxo sound.
And then of course, I love that they used the Wilhelm scream for Buzz when
Yes,
he
that's what I was gonna talk about next. Yeah, just out of curiosity, I looked up the Wilhelm scream, which for anyone who doesn't know, the Wilhelm scream, I mean, it's pretty much a meme
It is.
in filmmaking. According to Wikipedia, the Wilhelm scream is a stock sound effect that has been used in a number of films and TV series, beginning in 1951 with the film Distant Drums. The scream is usually used when someone is shot, falls from a great height, or is thrown from an explosion. The sound is named after Private Wilhelm, a character in The Charge at Feather River, a 1953 Western in which the character gets shot in the thigh with an arrow. This was its first use following its inclusion in the Warner Brothers stock sound library, although The Charge at Feather River is believed to have been the third film to use the effect. And it says the scream is believed to be voiced by actor Sheb Woolley.
Hmm.
So it was used in a couple of movies, and then Warner Brothers added it to their stock sound effect library. And The Charge of Feather River was the first one to use it after it had been added to that stock sound library.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was that old, too. I thought it was fairly recent, at least from the 70s or something.
Yeah, it's older than I thought. Not too long ago, I saw, it was on Reddit or something. It was a clip of, like, the original movie where it was used, the movie Distant Drums.
Hmm.
And that was interesting. I think I've seen, like, compilations of it too on YouTube, and I have to see if I can find a compilation to put in the show notes so that people can watch it if they want to.
Right? That would be interesting, like to see all the compilation of that. That would be really nice. I know for sure the funniest time that it's been used for me personally is in the Lord of the Rings, where they're doing the battle at Helm's Deep. One of the, I don't know if it's an elf or if it's just one of the soldiers, he gets shot with an arrow and he falls, and they put that scream in there. I'm like, out of all the movies, I didn't think the Lord of the Rings would use it.
That's funny, I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
and it makes me laugh every single time because I'm like, it doesn't match the movie.
This movie was probably my first introduction to the Wilhelm scream. In fact, I didn't realize that it was in other things for the longest time until I guess I probably recognized it in something else, and I was like, "Wait, that's Buzz's scream
Yeah.
from when he falls out the window."
That's what I thought too. When I was little, when I heard it again, I was like, they used Buzz's scream.
I mean, it does kind of sound like it could be Tim Allen.
A little bit, yeah, like he could pull off the Wilhelm scream.
It's a great sound effect,
It's,
though.
it's pretty great. I actually used to have an app on my phone that was just a button, and it was the Wilhelm button. You could just
Oh,
scream
that's funny.
whatever. It's great.
I realized this whole time as all this stuff is happening to Buzz, Woody is just, like, standing there, and everyone else is watching from the ground, and I'm like, they could have probably saved him. Like, Buzz Woody could have run up and, like, stopped the globe or, like, moved him out of the way, or Woody could have even, like, when the lamp starts swinging around, he could have, like, grabbed it to stop it,
Right.
but he just stands there and
He
watches,
just
like, with his
watches it
mouth
all,
wide
and at
open.
the same time, I think he did not save him because he thought, like, yes, this is actually what I want, but to a lesser degree is what he wanted. Like, he didn't actually want him to fall out the window, but at the same time, he's kind of like, yes, get rid of him, fall out the window.
Probably so, which just makes him even more of a jerk.
I know. He's just letting all this. Also, it's happening so fast. So by the time it actually clicks in his head, he's
Yeah.
probably thinking, like, oh, snap, this is actually happening.
I mean, part of it might be shock too,
Yeah, for sure.
because that's not what he expected to happen. At 1 minute 51 seconds, Ham, Potato Head, and Slinky yell, "Buzz!" and Rex screams. Woody looks over the edge of the windowsill and yells, "Buzz!" as Buzz falls into the bushes below. The other toys gather around worriedly, and Woody slowly backs away. And that's where that clip ends.
I feel like that may have made him look even more guilty, that he kind of backed
Mhm.
away from the situation. Like, okay, I'm going to try to disappear now. But everybody's like,
Yeah.
you were the one that caused this because we saw you acting over dramatic and we saw you wake up RC and try to, zoom him on over to whack Buzz. But then all this happened. So now you're trying to back away like, oh, nothing happened.
And on top of that, they've seen him acting pretty terribly for, like, the last few days now since Buzz first got there.
That too, like, they see that he's actually very much not liking Buzz because Buzz is now the new favorite toy. So they say, like, well, they don't say, but they're seeing, like, everybody notices how much he dislikes Buzz.
Mhm. I have a couple of quotes from well, we wanna talk about the Black Friday stuff here in a second, but before we do that, I have a couple of quotes from our sacred texts, Toy Story, the art and making of the animated feature. On page 48, there's a quote from Joe Ranft. It says, "It's a moment like a lot of people have in childhood where you took a whack at your sister or wanted to get back at some kid and they actually got hurt. Instead of turning the audience off, it brings them right back to Woody's side." Which I'm like, does it really though?
It
Does
honestly
it bring them
doesn't.
back to
I
Woody's
mean,
side?
honestly,
Because I mean, yeah, you feel bad for him that it went worse than he intended, but
he's still a
I
jerk for
mean, he's
doing it.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't I was like, it doesn't I don't feel like that it makes him I don't feel like it makes the audience more sympathetic necessarily.
I don't think so. I mean, as children, maybe, like, if they notice that, like, a little bit older kids, like, "Oh, yeah, I've done that," to where, like they said, they're trying to get back at a sibling or something, and they actually wind up getting hurt. So then the sibling who's actually doing the act is like, "Okay, I'm sorry, don't tell mom," like something like that.
Yeah.
So I can see the other, like, little kids like that, like, "Oh gosh, something bad's gonna happen now." So they're like, they feel sympathetic towards that. But especially adults, they're like, "No, he's a jerk."
Yeah. Um, there's another quote from page 52 that says the layout team also had to find artful ways to cheat the apparent scale of the environment. And no scene tested that skill more than Woody's attempt to get rid of Buzz atop Woody's desk, or Andy's desk. Buzz had to break into a full run along that desktop, says Johnson, but the desk wasn't very large. Artful editing helped, but the main solution was to model a second, larger desktop just for the shots where you're on top of it. So it's two different sizes depending on where you see it from.
That's
So I thought that
interesting.
was interesting. Yeah.
Also, like, if you think about it, yeah, like, how much would he have to run? Because that desk is short. If you look at it from Andy's perspective, it's just a small little desk. But then when the whole scene happens, yeah, like, a lot of stuff is happening, and you're like, it's plausible, maybe, to have that happen because they're toys, but when you're looking at it from that angle, it's so much larger.
Yeah, they're definitely, with the normal sized desk, there wouldn't be enough space at all for him to run that far.
Exactly. Like, that, now I'm, like, gonna notice that every single time.
Yeah. Um, should we talk about the famous Black Friday version of the Toy Story
Ooh,
script? 'Cause I
yes.
figured this scene would be a good place to talk about
This would
it,
be a good place.
because that's where, you always see, like, the storyboard version of the movie where Woody was much meaner to
Yes.
Buzz, to put it
He
lightly,
was
in this
like
spot, in this scene.
he was Jerk 2.0.
Yeah. So, a little bit of background for those who don't know. What's called the Black Friday version of the movie was basically the original uh storyboard pitch that Pixar brought to Disney. And I can't remember where I read this. It wasn't in any of the research that I gathered for this movie, but I know I heard it somewhere that Disney and I could be wrong, but I want to say specifically Jeffrey Katzenberg were pushing them into doing like a darker, more edgy version of the movie, and they just kept giving notes like make it more edgy, more edgy, more edgy, and then to a point where it wasn't something that they like it wasn't really their movie anymore. And all of the characters were like unhappy and just mean to each other, especially Woody. There is a short little featurette on the Black Friday storyboards or version of the movie that I will link to it in the show notes because it's interesting to watch. And it shows like the much darker version of this movie or of this scene, I mean, where Woody literally throws Buzz out the window. But so they did the whole pitch, brought it and showed it to Disney, and they were just super embarrassed, and Disney hated it, and basically all of them, like the production almost got shut down. All of them like were close to losing their jobs basically, but they asked for like 2 weeks to turn it around, and they somehow managed to do it. And it wasn't perfect after those 2 weeks, but they got it back on track. But the Black Friday version of this scene is so much darker, and I'm pretty sure that's where the previous deleted scene that we talked about, where that's like the edgier version of Woody and Buzz meeting, where Bo is like flirting
Flirting
with
with him,
Buzz.
I know. I feel
Yeah, I'm
like
pretty sure that's where this is where that came from too.
they were trying to make it more of like an older kid movie when they were pushing like make it edgier, and you know what? I am glad that they didn't. Like Disney didn't like that, so they told them to fix it. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that
Which is funny because it was Disney that gave him all of those
I
notes that
know, and
made
I'm
it
like, what the heck?
end up the way it was.
So I'm glad that
But
Pixar actually turned it around and made it more lighthearted, but
yeah.
like, why would you do that? Like, why would you tell them to do something edgier and edgier, and then they're like, "Oh, that's too edgy." You were the one that was pushing it.
Yeah, Toy Story, the art making of the animated feature, has some interesting things to say about it. On page 46, it says, "Unfortunately, those gathered for the screening were hard pressed to find any strengths at all. It's almost embarrassing now to look at how far off we were in that original take," says Andrew Stanton. Among the most glaring problems noted at the meeting, a take on Andy that wasn't very engaging. According to Stanton, he was too deliberate in pushing Woody aside instead of just overlooking his old favorite toy in his enthusiasm for Buzz. A confusing characterization for Buzz. "We made the mistake of not going 100% with his spaceman delusion," says Stanton. "He sort of knew he had an owner, and after he got lost, he wanted to get back to Andy just as much as Woody. That gave us two main characters with the same agenda. But those missteps weren't nearly as serious or as off putting as one enormous central miscalculation. We'd finally put Woody's scenes all together," says Ramft, "and he was a complete jerk. He had to wind up being selfless by the story's end," says Stanton. "So our strategy had been, let's make him selfish in the beginning. As a result, Woody came off as a smug, sarcastic bully, lording his most favored plaything status over all the other toys. Then," says Stanton, "we made the ultimate character mistake. At what should have been a moment of maximum empathy for Woody, the audience instead got a display of utter venality. He deliberately pushes Buzz out the window into Sid's yard, saying only, 'Hey, it's a toy eat toy world.'"
That was pretty dark of like that storyboard because it makes him look like he's one of these people that doesn't care as long as he gets what he wants.
Hmm.
Which I'm glad they scratched that because honestly, I think everybody would have hated Woody even like More to the point where they would not have liked the movie at all.
Yeah. In that version of the movie, I guess the all the other toys were taking bets on who Andy was gonna take to Pizza Planet, and Buzz comes up to Woody and tries to shake his hand and, like, tries to wish him luck, and Woody literally when Buzz shakes his hand, he just, like, pulls him up and literally throws him out the window, and then it cuts to all the other toys down on the floor below looking at him in, like, horror, and he's like, "What? It's a toy world," and, eventually all the other toys, like, stand up to him and throw him out of the window.
I like how
So
it's
that's fun.
Slinky is the one that says, "No, don't throw him off the bed, throw him out the window." He gets all, like, violent too.
Yeah, and I like that Slinky is, like, one of the first ones to stand up to Woody too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, because he's so loyal to him, you would think, like, he wouldn't, but there's only so much a single person can take, or a dog in this case. And,
Mhm.
honestly, watching that reel, it's like, honestly, I would have done the same thing too. I would have punched him or something. I would have been like, "You're such a jerk."
Watching that is one of the few times I've ever felt sympathetic for Mr. Potato
I
Head,
know.
because Mr. Potato Head is there, and he's like, I forget what he says, but he starts to stand up to Woody, and I'm like, "Yeah," because usually Mr. Potato Head is the one who's, like, cutting Woody down all the time, but this time I was like, "No, he's right."
Yeah, for real. And then what does Woody call he calls, he calls Slinky
Something
a
wiener.
springed wiener or something, like a
Yeah.
springy wiener. That's, like, my one favorite thing about that. I'm like, "Okay, that's funny."
He's so mean to Slinky, he's like, "You know that if it weren't for me, Andy wouldn't play with you at all," or
I know,
something
he's
like
like, he
that.
would have thrown you out, like, the last garage sale or something like that. I'm like,
Oh,
"That's so
I
rude."
remember what he said. He says, "You would have been hauled off to Goodwill a long time ago."
Yes, it's so mean.
I mean, it's kind of a good line, but it is really mean.
I also like this is not really related to the Black Friday reel. I mean, it is, but I really like that in the storyboards they gave Bo a really southern accent.
Oh, yeah. She's like, "Woody, you deliberately"
She's like, "You deliberately threw
something.
him out the window."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they
But I'm
should have
glad they
kept
didn't
that.
go that way.
That was so great.
I'm glad they didn't do it that way.
I
I
know.
don't know if that was still gonna be Annie Potts, because I don't think it is in the
I don't
recording.
think so. It doesn't sound like her.
No. But I wonder if they, like, would've if they were originally gonna keep, like, that like, strong Southern accent even with Annie Potts, and then they decided when they casted her, they decided to go a different way, or what?
Right. I think, like, even though Annie Potts is really talented, I feel like that's not her character even as a person, so it probably wouldn't have worked very
Right.
well.
Yeah. She's almost got more of, like I don't know if like, a mid-Atlantic accent is the word I'm looking for.
Right. Has more of a, I don't know, but yeah, like on the Eastern Coast side, not so much New Yorker, but not so
Mhm.
much like anywhere else.
Yeah, especially in Toy Story 4, the line that I always think of because I love the way she pronounces it is she says something about Gabby's cabinet, and she, like
Oh,
you could
yeah.
hear she pronounces all 3 syllables. Cabinet.
Yeah. I know. In the South, we just say cabinet.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have, to talk about with this episode.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, we could go on about Annie Potts' accent, but I think we should just cut it off now.
We could try to figure out or remember what kind of accent Annie Potts has.
Well, we'll do that.
Maybe in Toy Story 4 we'll do
Yeah,
that.
we'll pick her accent during that time.
There you go.
4 years from now.
All right. If that's all, then I guess we can wrap things up.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to follow our Facebook and Twitter accounts and send us an email if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns. And if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.